The text came in at 11:37 a.m., a sterile digital dagger in the middle of my attempt to salvage a sourdough starter that had, like my recent luck, definitely peaked and was now in a slow, fetid decline. My phone buzzed against the reclaimed walnut countertop of my apartment's kitchen, the vibration a physical echo of the low-grade anxiety that was my default setting around family events. I didn't want to look. I already knew. The Drake family reunion, a biannual exercise in competitive life updates and thinly veiled assessments, was this Saturday. I'd been mentally drafting my excuses for weeks. With flour-dusted fingers, I swiped the screen. Mom, stay home from the reunion. Your cousins are doctors and lawyers. You'd be embarrassing. That was it. No salutation. No softening. Just a blunt, surgical strike. The words didn't even blur. They were too sharp for that. They sat there in the text bubble, a monument to a final verdict. Embarrassing. The sour, yeasty smell of the failed starter suddenly felt apartment. It was the scent of potential gone wrong. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the phone. I just stood there, the familiar hollow ache expanding in my chest, filling the spaces my ribs were supposed to protect. It wasn't surprise, not really. It was the confirmation of a secret I'd known since I chose a college major in sustainable business over pre-law. In the ecosystem of the Drake family, I was an invasive species, a weed in a meticulously cultivated garden of professional prestige. My oldest cousin, Angela, was a pediatric cardiologist at Johns Hopkins. Her brother, Mark, was a partner at a white-shoe law firm in Manhattan. Second cousin Lisa was a federal prosecutor. The list went on, a roster of achievements that were recited like liturgy at every gathering. And then there was me, Taylor Drake, the one who dabbled, the one with the interesting little projects. For 5 years, my interesting little project had been Scrapwise, a salvage and redesign business. I found furniture, architectural elements, and industrial cast-offs in dumpsters, estate sales, and demolition sites, then restored, reimagined, and sold them. I had a workshop in a rented industrial unit that smelled of sawdust, linseed oil, and ambition. I had an online store that had, after years of grinding, begun to turn a consistent, modest profit. I had a small but loyal following who appreciated the story behind each piece, the history I unearthed, and the new life I gave it. To me, it was a vocation. To my family, it was a hobby. A messy, unprofitable, faintly shameful hobby. I looked at my mother's text again. You'd be embarrassing. The you'd was the kicker. It wasn't it would be embarrassing. It was me. My presence, my being, was the source of potential humiliation. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. 1,000 replies fought for space in my throat. I could list my quarterly revenue, which had just surpassed what Mark made as a first-year associate. I could send a link to the feature in design anthology that called my work a poignant dialogue between decay and renewal. I could ask her why my happiness was a currency of such low value in her economy. I could scream, digitally, for once. Instead, I took a deep breath that did nothing to fill the hollow space. And I typed back, okay. One word, a surrender. A white flag waved over the battlefield of our relationship. I hit send before I could second-guess it. The response was immediate. 3 blinking dots, then nothing. No, I'm sorry. No, you know what I mean. No, it's just for this year. Just silence. The verdict was accepted. The case was closed. I put the phone down, screen first. I looked at my sourdough. I dumped the whole jar into the trash. Then I went to my workshop. I turned on the industrial fan, its roar drowning out the quiet in my head, and I sanded a battered oak door I'd rescued from a 1920s bungalow slated for demolition. I sanded until my arms ached and my thoughts were nothing but grit and grain. The thing about a wound you've been nursing for years is that when it's finally ripped open cleanly, there's a strange, numb relief. The waiting was over. The hope, that stupid, stubborn little weed of hope that maybe this time she'd see me, was finally dead. I was free, in the bleakest way imaginable. I threw myself into work. The reunion was Saturday. On Thursday, an email landed in my business inbox. The subject line, Invitation, City Urban Renewal Gala and Awards. I almost deleted it as spam, but the sender domain was official, cityhall.gov. I opened it. It was a formal invitation to the mayor's annual gala, celebrating contributions to the city's cultural and economic landscape. My name was on it. Taylor Drake, Scrapwise. And below, In smaller print, award recipient. My heart did a stupid, hopeful little flip. An award? For what? I'd entered a city grant program for small sustainable businesses months ago, a shot-in-the-dark application I'd mostly forgotten about. This had to be a mistake. Or a cruel joke. I called the contact number, my voice unsteady. No mistake, Ms. Drake, a cheerful woman's voice assured me. The Mayor's Committee on Urban Innovation selected Scrapwise for the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. We're so excited to have you. The mayor herself will be presenting it. The award came with a small grant, but that wasn't the point. The point was the word, entrepreneur. Not dabbler. Not hobbyist. Entrepreneur. Of the year. A fierce, defiant heat bloomed in my chest, burning away some of the numbness. The gala was Friday night. The night before the family reunion I was now officially disinvited from. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell anyone in my family. What was there to say? I bought a dress. Not a Drake family reunion dress, understated, expensive, blending in, but a gala dress. It was emerald green, the color of a deep forest, and it was made of this velvet that felt like holding a shadow. It had a back that dipped low and sleeves that billowed. It was dramatic. It was unignorable. I paired it with earrings I'd made from vintage clock gears, plated in brass. Friday night arrived. I stood in my apartment, looking in the full-length mirror leaned against the brick wall. I didn't see the girl who was an embarrassment. I saw a woman who'd built something from nothing but discarded things and sheer will. My stomach was a knot of nerves, but it was a different kind of anxiety, the kind before a battle you chose to fight, not one you were forced to flee. The gala was held in the grand ballroom of the historic Rutherford Hotel, a building I'd once salvaged a dozen exquisite, tarnished brass doorknobs from before its renovation. The irony wasn't lost on me. Chandeliers the size of small cars glittered overhead, casting light on a sea of tuxedos and gowns. I recognized faces from the business section of the newspaper, local celebrities, philanthropists. I felt a momentary surge of imposter syndrome, a ghost of my mother's voice whispering, "What are you doing here?" I clutched my small, upcycled clutch, made from a discarded leather briefcase, and held my head high. The evening was a blur of champagne flutes and small talk. I talked to a developer about sustainable materials. I chatted with the head of the Arts Council about the importance of preserving urban history. People knew my work. They'd seen the design anthology piece. They asked insightful questions. They used words like visionary and impact. It was surreal. Then, after dinner, the awards ceremony began. The mayor, a dynamic woman in her 50s with a sharp smile, took the podium. She spoke about the city's spirit, about innovation rising from unexpected places. Then she gestured to the side of the stage. And now, to present our next award, an individual who embodies that spirit, turning what is overlooked into what is treasured, building a sustainable future literally from the ground up. A true homegrown success story. It is my great honor to introduce our youngest recipient of the Entrepreneur of the Decade Award, Taylor Drake of Scrapwise. The applause was a wave of sound. A spotlight found me, and for a second, I was frozen. Then I walked to the stage, the emerald velvet whispering around my legs. The mayor shook my hand, her grip firm and warm. "Your work is incredible, Taylor," she said into the microphone, her voice echoing through the ballroom. "You see value where others see waste. You don't just create beautiful objects. You preserve stories and reduce our footprint. You are precisely the kind of innovative, passionate young entrepreneur that makes this city's future so bright. Ladies and gentlemen, our youngest entrepreneur of the decade." She handed me a sleek, glass plaque. It felt heavy and solid in my hands. I looked out at the sea of applauding faces, the flash of cameras from the press section. My throat tightened. I hadn't prepared a speech. I leaned into the mic. "Thank you, Mayor Alvarez. This means more than I can say." My voice was clear, stronger than I felt. People often ask me why I do what I do. I work with things that have been thrown away, broken things, forgotten things. And I've learned that with care, with attention, with respect for what they were and vision for what they could be, they can become more valuable, more beautiful than they ever were before. That's a lesson that goes beyond furniture. Thank you for seeing value in my work. Thank you for this honor. The applause swelled again. As I stepped down from the stage, my phone, silenced in my clutch, began to vibrate. Not a call. A relentless, humming series of notifications. I ignored it, swept into a current of handshakes and congratulations. It wasn't until I slipped away to the restroom for a moment of quiet that I finally looked. The screen was a cascading waterfall of alerts. Instagram, 99 plus notifications. Facebook, 99 plus notifications. Text messages, 15 unread. My heart hammered against my ribs. I opened Instagram first. My profile, normally quiet, was exploding. The follower count was climbing by the second. I tapped the notifications. City Herald tagged you in a photo. Mayor Linda Alvarez mentioned you. Design Chronicle reposted your story. I opened the City Herald's page. There it was, a professional photo of me on stage, the mayor beside me, holding the plaque. The caption, breaking, mayor names local salvage artist Taylor Drake, youngest entrepreneur of the decade, at annual gala. Scrapwise founder hailed as the future of sustainable urban business. Full story coming. Then I saw the comments. And the shares. And that's when I understood. Angela Drake had shared the Herald's post. So had Mark Drake. And Lisa. And my Aunt Carol. And about a dozen other Drakes. They'd all shared it, with varying captions. Angela, so incredibly proud of my amazing cousin Taylor. We always knew you were destined for greatness. Hashtag family, hashtag entrepreneur. Mark, bravo Taylor. What an accomplishment. The Drake family is bursting with pride tonight. Aunt Carol, my brilliant niece. We're all celebrating you. My vision tunneled. The emerald green of my dress felt suddenly garish under the harsh restroom lights. The plaque, which I'd set on the edge of the marble sink, seemed to mock me. This wasn't pride. This was damage control. This was the frantic, public rewriting of history, an attempt to claim credit for a victory they had tried to prevent me from even attending. The text messages were worse. They were a masterclass in cognitive dissonance. Mom, 10:14 p.m. Taylor, sweetheart, I just saw the news. The mayor. I'm crying, I'm so proud. Why didn't you tell us you were being honored? Mom, 10:17 p.m. Your father is beaming. We're showing the article to everyone. Mom, 10:23 p.m. The reunion is tomorrow. You have to come now. Everyone is dying to see you and celebrate. You're the guest of honor. Each message was another twist of the knife. The hollow ache returned, but now it was filled with a seething, volcanic anger. Proud. 24 hours ago, my existence was an embarrassment. Now, because a mayor said my name in a fancy room, I was a trophy? The other texts poured in from various relatives, a chorus of sudden, effusive familiarity. We always believed in you, knew you had it in you. You must come tomorrow and tell us all about it. I leaned against the cool marble, staring at my reflection. The woman in the mirror looked regal and wounded all at once. The gears in my earrings caught the light. I had built those. I had built this. They hadn't. They tried to bury it. I didn't reply to any of them. I put my phone back in my clutch, picked up my plaque, and walked out of the restroom. The rest of the gala passed in a strange, detached haze. I accepted congratulations with a serene smile that felt painted on. Inside, I was a riot. I went home alone, the silence of my apartment a stark contrast to the glittering noise of the ballroom. I placed the plaque on my workbench, next to a jar of rusty nails and a half-sanded chair leg. It looked absurd there. Beautiful, but absurd. I didn't sleep. I replayed my mother's text. Embarrassing. I replayed her new texts. Proud. The whiplash was nauseating. This wasn't about me. It was about reflected glory. I was an asset now, not a liability. I was a story they could tell at the country club. Oh, our Taylor? Yes, the mayor just gave her an award. We always encouraged her creativity. The sun rose on the day of the Drake family reunion. It was held, as always, at my Uncle Robert's sprawling, perfectly manicured home in the Heights. By 1 p.m., my phone was a persistent, buzzing insect. Calls from my mother, my father, my aunts. I let them all go to voicemail. At 2 p.m., the reunion's official start time, I was in my workshop, covered in a fine patina of dust, aggressively assembling a bookshelf from reclaimed barn wood. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was my dad. I hesitated, then answered. Hi, Dad. Taylor. Honey, where are you? Everyone's here. We're all waiting for you. His voice was unnaturally jovial, strained. I'm working, Dad. Working? Taylor, come on. This is your day. Your mother is, well, she's got the article printed out and framed on the buffet table. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Dad, did you see Mom's text to me yesterday? The one telling me not to come. There was a long pause. I could hear the muffled sounds of the party in the background. Laughter, the clink of glasses. Taylor, she didn't mean it like that. You know how she gets. She worries about how things look. She said I'd be embarrassing. Another pause, heavier. She was stressed. The reunion, your Aunt Carol comparing everything. It was a bad moment. But this changes everything. The mayor, Taylor. We're so proud. The word proud felt like sand in my mouth. Does it change what I do, Dad? Am I still a dabbler? Or am I an entrepreneur now because someone outside the family said so? Don't be difficult, sweetheart. Just come. Let's celebrate as a family. You've proven your point. And there it was. I'd proven my point. Like this had all been some childish rebellion, a phase I needed to outgrow, and now that I had external validation, I could rejoin the fold. The anger crystallized into something cold and hard. I'm not coming, Dad. Give my regards to the doctors and lawyers. Taylor, wait. I hung up. I powered my phone off completely. The silence was immediate and profound. I picked up my orbital sander, its whirring scream a perfect match for the noise in my head. I worked until my muscles burned and the light faded. I didn't think about the party. I thought about the oak door, the grain emerging from under decades of paint. I thought about the feel of the glass plaque, cool and smooth. When it was fully dark, I turned on the lights, cleaned up, and finally turned my phone back on. It erupted immediately. Dozens of missed calls, a torrent of texts. The tone had shifted. Mom, 4:30 p.m. everyone is asking for you. This is very rude, Taylor. Mom, 5:15 p.m. Aunt Carol said you're letting success go to your head. Please don't make a scene. Mom, 6:45 p.m. Fine. If this is how you want to be. We were trying to include you. The final message, from my sister Emily, who was in med school and usually too busy to engage in family drama, came through at 7:02 p.m. Emily, heads up. Mom is on the warpath. She told everyone you were too busy with your celebrity to bother with family. Angela and Mark are playing it cool, but they're pissed you stole their thunder. It's a mess. Also, for what it's worth, the article was cool. That dress was killer. A sad smile touched my lips. Emily, always the observer. I texted back. Thanks. It's velvet. The fallout took days to settle into a new, fragile status quo. The public social media cheerleading from my family stopped abruptly. The framed article, I learned through Emily, came down from the buffet table by the end of the reunion. In its place, I was now the new family narrative, the ungrateful one, the one who got too big for her britches. The success was acknowledged, but it was framed as a character flaw, something that had changed me, made me cold and distant. My mother didn't call for a week. When she did, her voice was clipped, formal. I suppose you're happy. You certainly made your statement. I didn't do it to make a statement, Mom. I went to an event I was invited to. You told me not to come to yours. I respected your wishes. You humiliated us, she said, the anger sharp and clear now. Everyone was there, waiting. They all saw the news. They all knew you chose some city party over your own family. You told me I would embarrass you. I said quietly, the pain fresh all over again. The mayor said my work was valuable. Who was I supposed to believe? That's not the point. Family comes first. Always. You should have been with us, sharing your success with the people who love you. Do you? The question slipped out, raw and naked. Do you love me? Or do you love the version of me that doesn't embarrass you? The silence on the line was icy. I don't have to listen to this, she finally said. When you're ready to apologize, you know where to find me. She hung up. The dial tone was the sound of a door slamming shut. In the weeks that followed, the grant money from the award allowed me to hire a part-time assistant, a fiercely talented young welder named Leo, who saw beauty in scrap metal. Business boomed. The Herald article led to features in regional magazines, then a national online design blog. Commissions started coming in from out of state. My workshop was no longer just a survival chamber. It was a thriving, chaotic engine of creation. The family silence was a heavy blanket. My father called occasionally, giving me terse updates about the weather, his golf game, anything but the elephant in the room. Emily sent memes and checked in. The rest? Radio silence. I thought the pain would fade, but it didn't. It just changed shape. The sharp sting of the initial betrayal hardened into a dull, chronic ache of absence. Holidays loomed. My birthday passed with a text from my dad, "Happy birthday, love Dad," and a generic floral arrangement from my mother, the card and signed. I threw myself deeper into work. I took on a massive project, converting a decommissioned city trolley car into a mobile coffee shop for a local roaster. It was all-consuming. It required engineering, historic preservation, and design. I was in the warehouse by 6 a.m. every day, often not leaving until after midnight. Leo joked I was trying to sand my way to enlightenment. One Tuesday, covered in grease and listening to a podcast at full volume to drown out my thoughts, I heard a tentative knock on the open warehouse bay door. I turned, expecting a delivery driver. It was my father. He stood there, looking incongruous in his khakis and polo shirt against the backdrop of steel I-beams and dusty windows. He looked smaller than I remembered, and tired. I pulled my earbuds out. The sudden silence was loud. "Hi," he said, offering a weak smile. "Dad." I wiped my hands on a rag. "What's up? Can I come in?" I nodded, leaning against the trolley car's rusty frame. He walked in, his eyes taking in the organized chaos, the shelves of salvaged treasures, the half-finished furniture, the massive trolley taking shape. "This is quite a place," he said, his voice echoing slightly. "It's work." He nodded, shoving his hands in his pockets. He looked at the trolley. "What's this?" "Future coffee shop." "For being there." "Wow." He seemed genuinely impressed. "You're really building this?" "From this." "With Leo's help, yeah." He walked a slow circle around it, reaching out to touch the patina of the old metal, then pulling his hand back, as if it might be sacred. The silence stretched. "Your mother, she's not doing well," he finally said, not looking at me. I didn't say anything. The old, defensive wall slammed up inside me. "She's not sleeping. She's obsessed with that article. She reads the comments. She sees all the new things about your business online. She shows me, but she doesn't say anything." He sighed, a deep, weary sound. "The reunion, it was a disaster. Carol and your mother got into it. Carol said some things about how she always knew you were special, how your mother never supported you. It got ugly. This was news. Aunt Carol, the queen of comparison, defending me? It was hard to picture. Why are you telling me this, Dad?" He finally turned to look at me, his eyes sad. "Because I'm tired, Taylor. I'm tired of the silence. I'm tired of watching my wife grieve a daughter who is alive and thriving, and watching my daughter build a life that doesn't include us. I can't fix it, but I can't pretend it's not breaking me, too." The raw honesty in his voice disarmed me. This wasn't the jovial peacemaker or the distant authority figure. This was just a sad, stuck man. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, my voice softer than I intended. "I don't know. Maybe just let me see it. All of it. Not through your mother's eyes, or the family's. Just show me what you do. What you've built." So I did. For 2 hours, I gave him the tour. I showed him my first project, a wobbly end table I'd made in college that I still kept. I showed him the ledger where I'd tracked every sale, from a $50 picture frame to a $5,000 dining table. I showed him the plans for the trolley, the engineering specs, the health department approvals. I showed him the emails from happy clients, the photos of my pieces in their homes. I talked about the sustainability reports, the tons of waste diverted from landfills. He listened. He asked questions. Real questions. "How do you find this stuff? How do you know what it can become? Is Leo a good kid?" He didn't say impressive or proud. He just absorbed it. Finally, we sat on 2 overturned crates, drinking bad coffee from my ancient percolator. "You know," he said, staring into his mug, "your grandfather, my dad, he was a carpenter. Not a fancy one. Did cabinetry, built porches. His hands were always rough. He had a workshop in our garage. Smelled like this." He gestured around. "I used to love it in there. The smell of cut wood, the shavings on the floor." I stared at him. I'd never heard this. My grandfather was a distant figure in a suit in old photos, a retired bank manager. When he died, Dad continued, his voice thick. "My mother, your grandma Eleanor, she cleared out the garage before I could even get home from college. Sold all his tools for nothing. Got rid of everything. She said it was clutter, that it was time to move on." He looked at me, his eyes glistening. I think I've been letting your mother clear out the garage for 30 years. The admission hung in the dusty air between us. It was the key to a lock I didn't even know existed. "I'm not a project to be managed, Dad, or a problem to be solved. I'm her daughter." "I know," he whispered. "I know that now. I think she knows it, too. She doesn't know how to stop." The family, the expectations, it's the only script she has. And you rewrote the whole play. He left not long after, with a promise to come back and see the trolley finished. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a crack in the wall. His visit opened something. A week later, a package arrived at the workshop. No return address. Inside, carefully wrapped in tissue paper, was a single, old woodworking chisel. The wooden handle was worn smooth from use. The metal blade spotted with age, but still sharp. A note, in my father's handwriting, was tucked inside. Found this going through some old boxes in the attic. It was his. Thought it belonged here. Love, Dad. I held the chisel, the weight of it solid and real in my hand. It felt like an inheritance. The first one that made sense to me. The work on the trolley was entering its final phase. The interior was being fitted with reclaimed barnwood counters and brass fixtures I'd polished to a warm glow. The press from the mayor's award had led to more city interest, and I was now in talks to consult on a large-scale urban renewal project that aimed to incorporate salvaged materials into new civic buildings. It was the biggest opportunity of my life. And through it all, the silence from my mother was a constant, low hum. Father's Day came and went. I met my dad for lunch, and it was awkward but not terrible. He asked about the trolley. I asked about his golf game. We didn't talk about Mom. Then, on a sweltering July afternoon, my warehouse door opened again. I was up on a scaffold, installing the trolley's new/old light fixtures. I looked down. It was my mother. She stood just inside the door, as if crossing the threshold required a passport. She wore linen pants and a silk blouse, pearls at her ears. She looked utterly lost. Her eyes scanned the space, taking in the scale, the mess, the industry. They finally landed on me, 20 feet in the air, in cargo pants and a tank top, my hair in a messy bun. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. The last time we'd been in the same room was months ago, at a stiff, silent birthday dinner for my father. "Hello, Taylor," she said. Her voice didn't carry well in the big space, but I heard it. "Hi, Mom." I climbed down, my heart thumping against my ribs. I wiped my hands, a futile gesture. She took a few tentative steps in, her heels clicking on the concrete. She was looking at everything but me. At the wall of salvaged windows, at a stack of marble slabs, at Leo's welding station. "Your father, he's been talking about this place," she said. I waited. "He said it's remarkable." The word seemed foreign on her tongue. "It's my job." She finally looked at me. Really looked. Her eyes, the same shade of hazel as mine, were filled with a complexity I couldn't parse. Pain, fear, a dawning, horrified recognition. "I saw the trolley," she said. "On the news. They did a segment. Local artist revives history. I'd done a local TV interview the week before. I hadn't told anyone." "It's almost done," I said. She nodded, her gaze drifting back to the trolley. "It's very large." "It is." Another silence. She wrapped her arms around herself, though the warehouse was warm. "I didn't know," she said, so quietly I almost missed it. "Didn't know what?" "Any of it." She gestured vaguely. "The scale. The business of it. The planning. I thought it was a little online store. Some crafts." "It is an online store. And I do crafts. It's also a business with a business license, payroll, contracts, and a 5-year plan." The facts, stated plainly, seemed to hit her physically. She flinched. "When you got the award," she began, then stopped. She took a shaky breath. "When you got the award, I was horrified." The admission hung in the air, brutal in its honesty. "Because I was proud of you?" I asked, the old bitterness rising. "No," she shook her head sharply. "Because I realized I had no right to be. Because a stranger was telling the world what I should have seen. What your father saw in that garage 30 years ago. What I chose not to see." Her voice broke. "I was so busy making sure you fit that I never bothered to see what you were." Tears were streaming down her face now, silent and unchecked. She made no move to wipe them away. I stood frozen, every instinct torn between wanting to comfort her and wanting to scream at her. "The text," she whispered. "That awful text. I've read it 1,000 times. I was trying to protect you. From the comparisons, from the comments. I thought if I could just spare you that, then you'd, I don't know, find a safer path. But I was trying to protect you from a monster I helped create. The monster was never you, Taylor. It was me. It was my fear." She finally looked at me, her eyes pleading. "I am so sorry. I am so So sorry that I made you feel like you were anything less than extraordinary. I am sorry that I called my own daughter an embarrassment. There is no excuse. There is only this terrible, horrible regret. The dam inside me, the one holding back a reservoir of hurt and anger, didn't break. It just began to leak, slowly, painfully. I'd imagined this moment 100 times. In my fantasies, I was triumphant, cold, forgiving in a graceful, distant way. But life wasn't a Reddit post. It was messy and raw and standing in a hot warehouse with your crying mother. I believed you, I said, my own voice thick. For years, I believed I was the family's dirty secret, that my happiness was a consolation prize for not being a doctor. She sobbed, a gut-wrenching sound. I know, and I will spend the rest of my life knowing I did that to you. I don't expect you to forgive me. I needed you to know that I see you now. I see Scrapwise. I see the mayor's award. I see the trolley. I see the woman who built all of it from nothing but grit and genius. And I am in awe. She turned to go, as if she'd delivered her message and could now retreat to her own private hell. Mom. She stopped, her back to me, shoulders trembling. The reunion, I said. You were right about one thing. She turned, her face a mask of fresh pain. I would have been embarrassing. She shook her head, confused. Not because of what I do, I continued, but because I would have been seething, resentful. I would have been a black hole of bitterness at that party. I was embarrassing, just not in the way you thought. I was embarrassing because I hadn't yet learned that my worth wasn't in your hands. It's in mine. I held up my own hands, calloused and stained. It's in these. It's in my work. The mayor didn't give that to me. She just announced it to the room. My mother stared at my hands as if seeing them for the first time. The craftsman's hands. Her father-in-law's hands. She swallowed. Can I see the trolley? The inside. It was a small request. A tiny, fragile olive branch. I nodded. Yeah. Watch your step. The floor is uneven there. I led her up the makeshift ramp into the trolley. The interior was magical, even to me. The afternoon sun streamed through the cleaned, original windows, illuminating the warm wood and gleaming brass. It smelled of citrus oil and fresh coffee beans from a sack waiting to be used. She walked the short length of it, her fingers trailing over the countertops, touching the intricate scrollwork I'd painstakingly restored on the ends of the seats. You did all this, she breathed. With help. It's a miracle. She looked at me, tears fresh in her eyes. You made a miracle from something they threw away. We stood in the quiet, sun-drenched space. The gulf between us was still there, vast and scarred. But for the first time, we were both standing on the same side of it, looking at the same thing. Not at each other's failures, but at something I had built. It was a start. Would you, she began, hesitant. Would you let me come to the opening? Of the coffee shop? I wouldn't tell anyone. I could just be there. I looked at her hopeful, shattered face. The mother who had texted me to stay away. The woman who was now asking, timidly, to be let in. Yeah, I said. Yeah, you can come. She didn't hug me. I didn't hug her. The chasm was too wide for that yet. But she placed her hand, tentatively, over mine where it rested on the counter. Her skin was soft, uncalloused. A different life. Thank you, she whispered. She left a short while later. I went back to work on the light fixtures. My hands were steady. The hollow ache in my chest was still there, but it was different. It wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with the echoes of her apology, with the weight of my father's chisel, with the solid reality of the trolley around me. It was filled with the hard-won knowledge that my value had never been, and would never be, a family consensus. It was a one-woman operation. And business, finally, was good. The grand opening of the trolley coffee shop, the roundabout, was a civic event. The mayor cut the ribbon. The press was there. My father came, beaming, taking 1,000 photos. And in the back of the crowd, dressed in a simple navy dress, stood my mother. She didn't push to the front. She didn't try to claim me. She just watched. And when I caught her eye over the heads of the cheering crowd, she offered a small, tentative smile. I didn't smile back, not fully, but I gave her a nod, an acknowledgement. Later, as the first customers streamed in, ordering lattes in a space I'd resurrected, she approached the counter. Not my service counter, but the one where I was standing with Leo, accepting congratulations. She handed me a small, gift-wrapped box. For the business, she said quietly. Inside was a beautiful, leather-bound ledger. The kind used a century ago. On the first page, in her elegant script, she had written, Scrapwise. Founded by Taylor Drake. A record of value created. It was the perfect gift. Not an apology. The apology had been the words in the warehouse, but a tool. An acknowledgement of the mechanics of what I did. It was, in her way, a surrender. A recognition that my world had its own rules, its own language, its own ledgers. Thank you, I said, and this time, I meant it. The story doesn't end with a perfect reconciliation. Families aren't Reddit posts with tidy, satisfying conclusions. The group chats are still quiet. Reunions are still fraught. My mother and I are learning a new, careful dance. She sends me articles about sustainable design now, instead of law school brochures. I send her photos of finished pieces. It's a fragile, hesitant dialogue. But the text message is gone. Not deleted. I still have it, a scar and a reminder. But its power is gone. It's just a record of where we were, not a prophecy of where we had to be. Sometimes, late at night in the workshop, I'll pick up my grandfather's chisel. I'll feel the smooth handle, worn by his hands, now being worn by mine. I think about value, how it's not inherent. It's assigned. By markets, by families, by mayors. For years, I let my family assign mine, and they branded it embarrassing. Now, I assign my own. I find broken, discarded, forgotten things. I see the potential they can't see for themselves. I clean them. I repair them. I reveal their beauty. I give them a new story. It's honest work. And I'm finally starting to understand that the most important thing I ever salvaged, the most valuable project I've ever worked on, wasn't a door or a trolley or a business. It was me.